Welcome to our Pure Incantation challenge. Quick context, we just defeated Godric and we are having a little chat with Dragon Agheel before leaving for Caelid. During this time, let me immediately start sharing with you why I am saying Caelid can turn into easy mode. Well, first, I'm not naive, at least I hope so, and I took seriously the fact that reaching Caelid so early would be a sudden difficulty spike. So I started looking into the several bosses' pattern, weaknesses, etc. And I was expecting things to basically be a bit smoother so that we don't get hard stuck on some boss, for example. But the part I didn't expect is actually most of the bosses I'm fighting today, you will see. It's not like they have just basic weakness. It's more like if you know what they don't want you to do, you can just delete them. Literally. And back to the live action, as we defeat Dragon Agheel, and by reaching the nearby ruins cellar, we actually use the transporter trap there on purpose. It leads us to Celia Crystal Tunnel, which is a nice little shortcut to reach Caelid directly, as well as being immediately next to two important locations for us. First, we collect the Canvas Talisman to boost our incantations, then we head out trying to avoid the monster using Pest Thread, and at very close distance, we can reach Commander O'Neill. We can eventually find a use for the Poison Mist incantation we got way back. As you can see, it is very action-heavy fight with so much happening, but well, it's in the game, so why not use it, right? Seriously though, you can even notice the daylight shifting drastically because it just takes so much time. But eventually the commander falls to 0 HP and we are rewarded for our bravery with the gold needle, which is gonna let us later get Pest Thread incantation ourselves through Millicent's quest. So, after making the O'Neill fight basically a non-fight, I collect the Flame Grant Me Strength incantation. I am sure you can already guess the reason. The next two bosses I'm targeting are very weak to fire, so why not just overwhelm them with as much fire damage as we can. Combined with the Owl of Shabi rebuff, we have so high DPS, and as you can see, by targeting its fire weakness, this fight also becomes a formality. As every time I hit the tree, I'm doing like 25 to 30% of its full life as damage. So here, you could tell me, wait, it's only a mini boss, it won't work on bosses with more HP, come on. And while I agree this could be a fair point, I think the best answer is proof by action, so what better than a dragon fight against Decaying Ekzykes to test it. Once again, we prepare all our buffs first and then engage the boss. I start with Flame of Frenzy because it's AoE DPS, which is great against large bosses, and it also helps to stun such big enemies very fast. You can see only 2 casts it's already stunned. After the third cast, I switch to Black Flame because my madness is very high, and now I just need to make sure I have the FP to continue spamming. And here we are. And I will be honest with you, I actually also didn't expect the fight to be that crazy fast. Then I go to the Cathedral of Dragon Communion nearby before heading to Redmane Castle. In the end, I am opting out of buying Ekzykes special incantation and chooses Rotten Breath instead. 2 main reasons: 1, you can use it on Torrent, and 2, it costs less FP, but has the same status effect proc chance as Ekzykes 1, and that's what I mainly care about. As you can see, Redmane Castle is still full of enemies since I go there so early. The Radahn festival is not started yet, but I am fine with it since it's just more action and an additional fun boss fight. I will skip the fight preparation here, but basically after a few tries I found a nice setup to mostly simplify that boss fight into a Crucible Knight 1v1. I set up all my buffs, so the usual, Owl of Shabiri, Flame Grant Me Strength, and I get ready to cast Frenzied Burst, so as soon as I enter I target the Leonine, and since I can hit it from the entrance, it's actually pretty stupid, but you can see I can just time it to get all the hits done before he can even reach me. So as I was saying, it's mainly turning into a 1v1. I even have time to get 1 or 2 hits out against the Crucible. In this case you can see I get 2 hits, then thankfully I can dodge his attack. And from this point on, let's be honest, it turns more into a kiting game. So I'm obviously trying to keep my distance, but the tricky part compared to previous fights is the Crucible Knight can actually get quite fast if you are close to him. It's actually not bad that he's already in phase 2, because when he has this flying animation, it's fairly easy to predict where he's gonna land and to avoid. You can also see a little bit, if you're careful about my movement, that I'm trying to not break the tables when I can do it. It's because I believe it helps the passing. I mean, in the opposite way, it makes the passing of Crucible Knight more difficult, and he will not automatically break them, so it's kind of helping me build more distance. Overall, I'm just trying to be very careful. Once again, the dive attack is a blessing for me, so I can just keep distance. I'm recovering mana here, but I don't have time to hit, so I'm going for another round. Thankfully, you can see again, like the sword is not going far from me, but it's just enough distance to stay safe. Here I'm hitting and it's not enough distance this time, so I get hit, but since I can tank one hit and few panic rolls later, I'm off again. So I was happy there, and I was ready for a final high five, and I didn't expect that, but here we are. We won, but it seems our Crucible friend didn't want to let us part without at least a small farewell sword hug. At that point, remember I mentioned to get this boss fight we had to be here before the Radahn festival started, so now just one quick goal before fighting Radahn, triggering the start of the Radahn festival. The quick way I am using now is to reach Altus Plateau, since I already have nearby sites of grace from the time we went far north in Leonia to the Tower of Frenzy. We quickly reach the river that leads to the tunnels and ruins, which then connect Leona to Altus Plateau. The final obstacle to reach the plateau is the Magma Wyrm Makar, and after realizing quickly that fire would not do much against it, I decided to play hide and seek and rot with him. Future spoiler, I'm planning to use rot against Radahn, so I wanted to get more comfortable with rotten breast timing, range, etc. So here I am, trying to proc it on Makar. In the end it takes me 2 full casts, but that still feels pretty quick, and the base damage was actually more than I was expecting, so that's a nice bonus too. Then from that point on, I just turn around the middle pillar to prevent Makar from dive jumping on me. And then we keep dancing for a bit until the rod status expires, which is when I just finished the fight with the lightning spear. With this fight over, we are now left with just one more action, reaching Altus Plateau. And that's it. Now we are done and can return to Caelid to test our skills and incantations against Radahn.
Are you good and prepared, young chum? The festival begins. The celebration of war! The Radahn Festival!
Here we are. So while I show you my first few tries against Radahn, let me run you through the strategy today. Just like the other bosses we've been facing, if you look into it, Radahn also has some glaring weakness. He can be inflicted rot very easily. So my goal in these early tries is to get the feeling of the pace of the fight, as well as finding the earliest window I can inflict rot on him, and afterwards then we can focus on DPS normally. I'm sure you noticed, but these first tries were a bit catastrophic, because he so often can one-shot me out of nowhere. So in order to get better condition, to get a good grasp on the fight, I adjusted the Flask of Wondrous Physics a bit by switching the fire damage tier with the one that provides one-time damage shield, basically trading a bit of DPS for survivability. At that point, I immediately start to reach phase 2, which is probably a mix of the setup change and generally remembering more and more of the fight timings as I am playing it again. I reach phase 2 a second time and realize the only thing I'm missing is doing a bit more damage by myself during the 90 seconds of the rot effect, so that I can close the fight a bit earlier and hopefully win. And after all these adventures, here we are. The true battle against Radahn. First, we need to rush towards him and avoid all his arrows. So the first one we jump, and they do so much damage, we want to avoid all of them. The second one we jump as well. And the third one we're gonna roll because the angle is not the same, otherwise it would not work, so we roll. And now we can get on torrent to avoid the second type of attack, which is the spears. If we get hit too much we will be stun locked, so here it's not ideal we get touched, but in the end it's not that horrible. We managed to get through, we heal, and now we are ready to try and inflict rot on him. So we do the rot embrace. And luckily, as you can see, it's just enough to trigger the rot. So basically this is 90 seconds of guaranteed damage for nearly 50% of his life total. So now we can boost our fire damage, and we are ready to use Frenzied Burst as much as we can. We can hit him here, but we need to really be careful, because as soon as the distance is too close, he can just dive jump on us, and we can basically get one shot. So I keep trying to do as much damage as possible, not being too far, not being too close, and I'm just wondering when he's gonna go into phase 2. Oh my god, here. Thankfully, and I see this now again, like he just touches torrent, but otherwise that would have been a disaster. And now he goes into the air for phase 2. At this moment we need to cross the hill as fast as possible. This is the most straightforward way to avoid the phase 2 meteor attack. And here I am boosting fire damage again and ready to kite him with Frenzied Burst, but I will admit it was a bit too conservative here, and I am just slightly out of range, even with Frenzied Burst insane range, which is not a big deal, but still could have been better. As you can see, the main difference in phase 2 is now he uses a lot more gravity magic, so good movement with torrent becomes even more important. Like here I could just stay out of range and shoot again. Then I have to bait this gravity attack, which you can avoid easily by rotating. Taking more distance again, we can hit another time, but oh, I get hit here, which is really not ideal. So I heal, but this is my last potion. And now I think I'm one shot off the win. I get hit, but I'm not that worried. So I'm preparing, I shoot, and then I'm like, no way! Just 1 HP and you start this special attack? No, not like this, please. But thankfully I could take the distance again, and we are done. Radahn is defeated. And now with 2 rune carriers defeated, the path to Leyndell is open, so that's where we are going next, with many more bosses to come. Otherwise, as always, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more of such content, like, subscribe, and above all, thanks for watching and stay awesome.